Hello, and thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. I'm excited to present my final ice cream sales and forecast for the Park Ridge Dairy Queen in Illinois for the 2025 season. Planning out the year is great and really helps avoid two main risks of either overstocking or understocking during slow or busy months. Uh, in this presentation, I'll walk through my final monthly forecast and the methods I use to create them and how I adjusted them based on seasonality, location, and other business insights. So, my monthly forecast for 2025 and a little bit of a reasoning with it as well. Uh, since our store is closed during November through February, the projections are not going to be shown really because they're just at zero since we were closed during that time. Uh, we do open up in March, and in March, I expect sales to slowly restart and pick up as customers adjust to the warmer weather. April should see a steady increase, and by May, schools start to let out, and our sales should really pick up by then. June and July are by far the strongest months for our location. People are on summer break, and the weather is consistently hot. A lot of families in the area as we're in the middle of a community and with several parks and schools nearby. Um, in addition to that, there's also a bunch of children's sports leagues in the area, and it's very common to see entire teams come over to the Dairy Queen to get ice cream after a game. In August, sales should remain strong, but do take a little downward turn as some kids start to go back to school or whatever. Uh, by September and October, it starts to gradually drop off, and by late October, the cooler weather and school really reduces the demand significantly. Here's just like a quick graph where you can see we steadily increase from March and kind of like shoot up in June and July, and then it's kind of more of a sharp decline as the weather starts to get cooler and kids go back to school. Comparing the three forecasting methods, I began testing all the methods: the naive, the cumulative mean method, and the moving average method. The naive method was by far the simplest. It just assumes next month's sales are going to be the same as the previous month. While it's easy to use, it doesn't really adapt for changing conditions like summer spikes or winter shutdowns. The cumulative mean takes the average of all the previous months. It smooths out the random ups and downs, but it can be too slow to react to new trends. For example, if we suddenly get a warm spring, it just won't adjust quickly enough to that increase in sales. The moving average method looks at the most recent few months, which makes it more responsive in the short term changes. However, it can still lag behind sudden weather changes or unexpected events. Each method gave me useful information, but none of them captured the full picture on their own, really. So I decided to combine their strengths in my final forecast. My holistic forecasting approach. Uh, I forecasted this pretty holistically by combining what worked best from each method. I looked at the moving average as it is my baseline, and it reflected short term trends and adapts to changes in demand. Then I used the cumulative mean as it was the stabilizer that prevented overreacting to sudden spikes or dips. I also applied some real world reasoning based on my experience and knowledge of the location sales behaviors. For example, if the data suggested a steady demand, I made sure to adjust for it, seasonality, and special local factors like school schedules and park activity. Finally, I kept inventory management in mind, ordering just enough to meet demand, but not enough that we risk waste during slower months. How seasonality shapes demand. Um, Ice cream sales in general are just a textbook example of seasonal demand. As you know, they're going to spike during the summer and drop during the winter. Uh, for us, during the early spring, sales begin to slowly uh, tick up as people are adjusting to warmer weather. But once the summer hits, demand skyrockets. June and July are by far our busiest months. Hot weather, school vacation, family outings all drive traffic to the Dairy Queen for us. By the time September comes around, cooler weather and school starts to and school kicks in, really starts a natural decline, but not too much. It's a little gradual. October is our final month before closing, and it's important to plan carefully to avoid leftover inventory. You don't want to have anything left over. That's just a waste of money. Recognizing these seasonal swings helped me create my forecast that is both realistic and efficient. The impact on our location. Our location in Park Ridge, Illinois, played a major role in shaping demand. We're close to several schools and parks, which means steady stream of families and students, especially in the afternoons or on weekends. This area also hosts community events and sports games, which in the short term boost our sales. On the flip side, Illinois' weather can be pretty bad and unpredictable. A cold and rainy spring could slow down sales, while an early hot spring could spike them. These location specific insights are why I asked the forecast, or I adjusted my forecast, I should say, beyond what the data predicted. I wanted them to match the real local behavior as closely as possible. Uh, Refining my forecast. As reviewing my initial forecast, um, I was looking at it and I wanted to make a few changes. I raised June and July significantly to account for how busy we typically get in those hot months. Um, it was to ensure we had enough in stock in case of unexpected rushes in community events or, you know, just more people. I lowered October sales as they historically dip earlier than expected once temperature falls. Making this small reduction helps reduce leftover product before closing for the winter. October in Chicago can get pretty cold sometimes and even have snow. These refinements make sure that my forecast is more practical and better aligned with our business. Here's just another graph where you can see the actual changes and visually see what I did. Wasn't too much, but I thought it was for the better. My forecast confidence. I would rate my confidence an 85 out of 100, or 85%. I felt very confident in the structure of the data and the reasoning behind the numbers. A combination of multiple forecasting methods along with local insight gives me a strong foundation. The 15% of uncertainty reflects factors that are outside of our control, mainly the weather, local event timing, or unexpected shifts in customer habits. For example, unusually cold summer could reduce sales, or a new local event could boost them. Overall, this level of confidence shows that I was prepared for both strong sales periods and minor deviations. Key takeaways. To wrap up, this forecast was designed to give the Dairy Queen and Park Ridge a reliable roadmap for 2025. It balanced quantitative analysis and quantitative judgment, meaning I just didn't want to look at the formulas. I actually used some knowledge about the customers and the area and how the weather affects the demand. This forecast better supports better decision making for ordering and staffing and marketing throughout the season. With these insights, we can stay well prepared and maximize our sales in our busiest months. Thank you.